recording. So,
Super cool setting in here. Got the hand hewn logs in the barn.
yeah, so we're recording this. Welcome to the podcast. Um, yeah, this is our first episode of either the Denton Farms podcast. I don't, I don't know what we're gonna call it, but
Come up with something good over time.
welcome to the podcast. Yeah, we're in a good old machine shed. No insulation, no electricity, nothing. But if you guys are watching the video, you can see these are all hand hewn logs, probably from, let me guess, 40s.
Yeah, I would say even before that, probably around between 1900 and 1930. So this barn's been here a long time.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely the most interesting setting I've ever done a podcast
Yeah,
in.
yeah, it's a cool old barn. It was actually added to in the 70s and originally a tobacco barn and then turned into a stock barn. And then later when we bought it, now it's a machine. We just put uh, like combine headers and such in here now.
Sweet. Yeah, no, big fan. I was trying to find a place and I was like, oh, we could do it in some cabin. We could do it in the shop. I was like, let's do it somewhere where there's not going to be a bunch of people. So, old shed is what it's going to be today.
Yeah,
So, for those of you who don't know, my name's Clayton. I run a media company called Atlas Media Solutions, and I guess I could title myself the creative director of Denton Farms. I
for
think that's
sure.
probably the best way to put it. So I'm sitting here with Neil, and Neil is one of the owners, one of the Dentons
Yep.
of Denton Farms. So you can go ahead and
Yep.
introduce yourself.
It's basically my dad and I. My name's Neil Denton. We farm in Barlow, Kentucky, and uh, just partnership. And Dad's kind of on the tail end of his career. He's still active in the farm, but doesn't run it day to day. Just kind of comes in and out as he so chooses. Um, we have a pretty big family, and takes care of a lot of grandkids every day, and just pretty much does what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're predominantly a corn and soybean farm, but we also grow wheat and dabble in some other small grains. So, um, been I've been farming since I was a little kid, but actually on my own, I started out in like full time in about 1999, and been farming ever since, growing, and just about every year we grow a little. So
Mm-hmm.
the farm was originally started. My family's been in Kentucky a long time. Um, I think there's been 6 or 7 generations here in this actual county. Um, the grant was originally a land grant by Lewis and Clark to the Denton family, and it was extremely large at one time after the grant, and then it had several generations of badge management, got it all the way down to 150 acres or so. My dad took it over in 1971 and reinvigorated the business, and set up an actual business versus just a you know kind of like a roughshod, do the best they can do. Dad changed all that and put an organized system in place, uh, and we've grown it back, not to its original size, but it's a sizable small family farm now.
Yeah, I mean, as far as family farms go, it's one of the bigger ones I've been
Yeah.
to. Let's go back to, we're just gonna kind of go over the story of the farm. We'll go into a little more detail. Um, let's go back to that first land grant. What's that all about? What did it mean to get granted land during the first kind of westward movement and all that? Like, what did that look like?
Well, this is pretty interesting because I didn't actually know this history until a couple of years ago, and my dad's brother is a college professor and started doing Denton family history, and we never really knew the history of our farm, to be honest. We knew that my grandfather was a part-time farmer and a sheriff of the county, and then his father was a also a farmer, dairy and fruit and vegetable farmer, and but we really didn't know beyond that. The family hadn't kept up with its history or anything. So as Keith was doing the research, he's looking back through all the generations and actually documented, what all happened, and basically, when Lewis and Clark came into this area or region, they were, I guess, the government was awarding grants to some of the pioneers into the area, the early pioneers into the area. One of our forefathers, one of the early Dentons, um, was one of the people that was awarded one of the grants, and the grant was in Ballard County, Kentucky, which is where our farm currently resides, and it just started out as a large land ownership, not a lot of it being in production, just wilderness and prairie, and they developed the farm. I think early, very early in the um, grants process, and then as generations went, um, and I think wars happened too. My family had. I'm not a military guy, but my early family was in the military, and it would take them away from the farm through World War I and World War II. I think the farm had already started to decrease in size by that point, but I think, it what it did was it handicapped the farm during that point, and the farm really severely started to decrease in size, to the point where my granddad, everything was so bad by that point. I think he had uh, pretty much given up on the dream of farming and went into public service. And and my dad uh, did get a young experience with his dad on the farm, which bred his love for it. He first thought he was going to be a timberman. Um, my dad decided he was going to be in timber and did timber for a little while, but still loved the farm, and finally decided in 1971 he would make a go of it. And so he asked his dad if he could rent the remaining acres that he had, and his dad was like, "I don't know why you'd want to do that, but sure." And rented in the farm, and Dad started actually row cropping along with tobacco and I think hogs at that point. He got started a small hog operation, and then from there it's grown to what it is today. Um, he got out of the uh, I think pigs sometime in the late 70s. Um, Picked up a beef mama cow herd operation for a short time, but with the row crop, uh, was just really taking off here in Kentucky by that point. That's where he saw the most profitability, and we completely got out of the animal business. I think in 1986 or seven, something like that, and just um, the tobacco buyout happened. I think in the early '90s, and that cut us out of tobacco, and we've just been corn and beans predominantly ever since, with the small grain scattered in there. So that's kind of the history of our farm.
So do you remember the names of the first that your first great
Okay,
grandparents
so
who came here?
yeah, so it's pretty interesting. We are of that same Denton line that Richard Denton, he was a Presbyterian minister, and most of the Dentons in America came from his line. So I think he immigrated here in the 1600s, or late 1500s, early 1600s, a Presbyterian minister. Um, I think they wind up from where he immigrated into New York into the Virginias, from the Virginias to Evansville, Kentucky, and then from Evansville, Kentucky to Texas, and are into Western Kentucky. So the very we're in the very far western tip of Kentucky here. Evansville's a little north of us, and there's an extended Denton family to me that I really don't know, but I know I'm related to in like the Denton, Texas area. So that's kind of the same line that we're in. Um, I think my grandfather's name was Durwood Denton, which was my dad's father, and then his father was Hillary Denton, and I think before him was Samuel, and I think it's Samuel. The farm was still a very large land ownership family, uh, size land grant type deal, but after him, and we don't have a lot of records of this, but after him is when it got broke up into, I think it parceled out into, maybe other family members. We don't really know exactly because we haven't done extensive research into it, but I think he was the last large landowner, and then ever since then, it's been small parcels divided between multiple families.
So how did your dad come into this and say, "Hey, I want to grow this"? Like, what did that look like? From cup like 100 acres, something like that,
Yeah.
all the way to now
Yeah,
thousands of acres
yeah,
across
it's
the state
amazing,
county.
really. I mean, my dad is a visionary. He's very smart. One of the best managers I've ever been around. I've been very blessed to be taught by him. I'm not the same manager my dad is. I have a different. I'm probably more. I've always been the. I love actually growing things. So, um, my contribution to the farm is through agronomy, and I mean, I guess I'm a decent businessman, but my dad is, an excellent businessman. I still look to him to advice on that front. And I think that's why we've been such a formidable team is because early in my, like when we teamed up um, in the late '90s, um, I brought my love of growing things and agronomy to the business, along with his vision for the actual numbers part of the business. And when you put us both together, me managing agronomy and just the day to day things that a businessman that's so focused on growth doesn't need to worry about, it made us extremely formidable, uh, you know, to compete against. And it's what's given us our success, in my opinion, is you put those two things together, the knowledge of business plus the knowledge of agronomy, and it becomes what it is now. Just a very successful family farm.
Mhm. How do you guys? You kind of talked to me about this in the past, but how do you guys go about buying or releasing new ground? Adding to your acres to then plant more crops on to hopefully grow your profitability overall, but also just to have more ground under your guys' management to continue to.
Sure. And this is the $1 million question that everybody wants answered. And the best uh, the best answer I can give you is it's through relationships and honoring your word and doing the things right for that landowner or for the relationship you want to foster. So um, when you're trying to grow a business or grow an operation, your word matters and what you do matters. People see and people talk at the coffee shop, so people see how you live your life. They see if you honor your word or not. And it's not like it's something that happens overnight, but if you consistently do the things that you say you would do, you honor your word, and you're honest and open, I think people notice that. They notice also attention to detail, which, if you know my dad, you know there's no more detail oriented person than my dad. And probably I drive him crazy because sometimes I can overlook details that he will pick out, and bring to my attention. Um, I'm more of the big picture guy, and he's more of the minute, you know, attention to detail manager. And but when you watch those attention to detail things, and you do it over a long period of time, your neighbors notice. People even away from the area notice, or they hear your name just because you've done what you say you would do, and you've been honest and open with people. And hey, if the person that owns the land isn't making money and getting himself better and his farm isn't getting better each and every year, why wouldn't he look to somebody else? And that's always been our policy here is we try to we would like to be successful, but we want the people that work with us, our employees, our other landowners, or other family members, we want them to be successful too. If everybody's not successful, they're looking for another place to put their largest asset, which is their family farm or their business's farm. So it's been a good, um, it's been very good to us just doing those basic things.
Mhm.
And it's not like this is a fast process. You look and see what my dad has grown it to now, um, and but that's been a 30 or 40, I guess 40-year process now, almost 50 years. So um, yeah, 50 years. It doesn't seem like uh, I should be saying that really, but um, you know, it's taken that long to to grow it to what it is now. So that success doesn't happen overnight. It's just grinding, doing the right things, and um, over time, that matters. It makes a difference. We've never had to go out and try to rent land. People usually come to us, or people always come to us with it. If they have a farm that's available, I very rarely make a phone call, but um, I'll call you back if you call me. And and so through that, we have been very successful in what we do here.
Let's talk a little bit about your employees, the farmers as you've called them in the past, the guys that you employ, and how you've got Homer who's been here for 50 something years,
Yeah,
70 something years.
yeah,
He's been here a long
he
time, and then
has.
you've got Blake's been around a while.
Yeah,
Blake's brother's now
right.
here. Logan's now here.
Yeah,
Like how have you taken it from just you and your dad doing all the work to saying, well, we want to work with other people? Like,
sure. And we've always had several employees here over the years. Most of our employees are long term. We like to we look for guys that are independent minded. They can make their own decisions. Um, Farming's hard. It's dusty. It's dirty. Um, you don't get to stay pretty very often. Even Dad and I are constantly dirty, constantly greasy. We're hot. You got a lot of time away from your family, so it's not for everybody. And the guys that have always worked out here for us are the guys that are willing to do that hard stuff. And when we see that in somebody, we try to compensate them with good pay. We treat them like family, and we give them opportunities if they have a dream or something that they want to accomplish. We try to help them accomplish that goal, and through that, they become farmers. In their own right. They don't necessarily own the part of the farm, but they treat it like it's theirs, and through that, uh, like Dad and I like to travel. We love to travel. So when we're out away from the farm, we have 4 or 5 people that are capable of managing uh, the agronomy side of the business. They can make their own decisions. They don't have to call me. They know what needs to be done each and every day. They know if we have a problem in the crop, they can tell by looking. We teach them that over the course of time, and they become formidable. And I would think they could leave this operation and be successful in any operation they went to at any point, and probably could run their own farm if they so chose.
mm-hmm.
So
that's
that's kind of what we look for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, there's the youngest kid, Logan. He's out taking a CDL test right now because he's been telling you guys he wants to do that for a long
Sure.
time. And
Yeah, his dream is to own his own trucking transportation business. And Logan came here when he was 13 years old, and he's 22 now, I think. And he's steadily, his goal has been to own one semi, and then once he has one established and paid for, his goal is to own a second one, and a third and a fourth, and maybe 100 one day. And he's accomplished his goals, and I think uh, I think sometime this year Logan will actually get to own his first semi, and yeah, hopefully he passes his test today. He's been nervous and studying hard for it, so we're excited for Logan, and the sky's the limit for him. He's super talented, one of the best drivers I've ever been around, and just a willing learner.
mm-hmm.
It's been a blessing to have him here.
Yeah, no, all the guys that they've got over here are super awesome to hang out with and talk to. They've all got their own quirks and personalities,
Oh yeah.
but they all, I mean, they work like farmers. I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah, Blake is he's the one that's always he's kind of got like the glass half empty. He always feels like everything's not getting done like it should be, or um, he's kind of the guy that always keeps you honest. He'll never compliment you, um, but he's always here, and he runs our planter for our soybean planter for us, and like I've I don't know if I've ever had a more beautiful soybean crop, and it's because he is never willing to accept only halfway. So
Hmm.
then you got Homer who can do anything. I mean, uh, you'll never find a more mechanically inclined person that hasn't been trained, like at an actual school or something. He has a something about his intellect that allows him to know almost every trade, and sometimes you'll question like what in the world is he doing, but most of the time he gets it running, and it'll run as long as he needs it to until we can find a better fix. So he's an improviser, and just the amount of time he's spent in the field doing field repairs, it keeps us running.
Hmm.
So and you got Zach, who's a very skilled tradesman. Was originally a plumber, a pipe fitter, but has carpentry skills, electrical skills, and just is a pretty good mechanic too. So he's probably the guy that's been here the least amount of time, but has fit in very well with our team, and is just an awesome dude. And then we got as Roseba, who is a Canadian farmer that has got a dual citizenship now and is a landowner here, under our umbrella. And he is a wonderful farmer and a great dude, too. It's just been a blessing. And I've only known him about 2 years. He's become one of my close friends. And um, I mean, just a awesome farmer, too. So I learn as much from him as he learns from me. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to add somebody like that to our network of people,
Yeah, those are all of them are people we should definitely have on the podcast at some point because
for
they can
sure.
just, I mean, Homer, what you've said, Homer can go for hours, and
Oh yeah,
Logan loves being on camera. That guy could talk forever and probably be a little hard to get Blake on, but I'm
yeah,
sure Zach would love to. As would be a fun one, just being a Canadian farmer, having
yeah,
him on. But
yeah. They all have very cool stories. I think Homer could have his own. He could have his own show just because he's such an interesting character, and all the experiences he's had over the course of his career, all kinds of different. I mean, he's been here through it all, has seen all the innovations in ag, has worked at a many crops, um, and all kinds of different types of equipment and problems, and plus he's got an interesting social life too. So, and he loves to tell you his stories. So they're hilarious, and anybody that's ever worked with Homer can attest that they're laughing constantly with him.
yeah,
So
definitely. So, all right, we're gonna wrap this one up, guys. If you can't tell, there's some tractors and combines starting in the background, so that probably means probably start
yeah,
recording pretty here pretty
everybody's
soon.
itching to get busy for the day.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to the first podcast. We might keep doing it here. We might do it somewhere else. I kind of like the old
It
barn.
is the
Kind of
old
fun.
ambiance in here is very cool.
Yeah. I would. Yeah. I got a buddy. This is total side note. I got a buddy. He's a farmer. They've torn down quite a few barns from the late 1800s, and they've kept all of the beams and all the like old hand hewn logs and everything, and they're now putting an addition on their house. So he's got a old cabin builder, old certified cabin builder. He's trying to get to put up a new house with all the old framing and everything, integrate all the old beams and everything. And I don't know, it's not definitely not cost effective, but it's going to be a really cool project
Yeah,
when it's
they are
finished.
beautiful. And it's amazing to me uh, like the amount of labor it would have took in to build something like this, by hand.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just those guys knew how to work, and they definitely had grit to be able to chop those timbers, drag them up here by horse, and uh, you know
Yeah, I could not
by
imagine
the sweat of their brow.
putting up any building these days without heavy equipment. Like, can you imagine staying these poles up? And
No.
oh man, yeah. So, well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll come up with a name of this. That's up. Come up with a name at some point for this thing. But we appreciate you listening. Please share this with your friends. We intend that we'll talk probably more next time about what we intend this to be once we actually figure out what we want this to be.
Yeah.
Um, but we really want this to be an opportunity for not only farmers and ranchers and anyone in the ag industry to tune in and learn stuff about farming, but also people who know nothing about it to kind of just dip their toes into how much crazy stuff goes on, like all the stories there. I mean, there's millions of stories out there in
Yeah.
agriculture of all like these amazing things, and like we're barely scratching the surface of him. Like that, Neil's sharing his story about his family farm. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of farmers in the US still who have stories just like that, or farmers who don't have stories like that but are like, hey, I want to have a story like that one
Sure.
day.
The agriculture industry is so vibrant, and it has so many different types of personalities and talents. And I think my vision for um, what we have going here is I saw Clayton online, actually saw his farm rescue video, and I said, whoever shot that video is a genius. And I reached out to Clayton, and I thought, um, I've dabbled around in the social media, and but I saw his work, and I thought, um, it would just be cool to be able to start a business that is agriculture centered, and has a vision to just inform and just kind of spotlight some of what goes on in the agriculture industry. I don't think you get to see enough of it, and a lot of what is produced is very farmer specific. And I'm not saying that's not what we're doing here, but I hope to see it expand into where it just hits the mainstream, and you get to see people from outside the agriculture industry start to become interested in what we're doing in this business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're just now getting started. We're barely a month into this, but I think we can both already tell. Like, hey, like we'll nail some fit and finish things, but
Sure.
there's a real opportunity here to help really change and influence the way society views agriculture. And we're thinking much bigger than just farmer focused content. I mean, we're thinking of the millions upon millions of people who don't know where their food in the grocery store comes from. I
Yep.
mean, we talk the industry, especially those within the ag industry online, talk so much about advocacy. That's their term, they call it, but it feels like an echo chamber sometime. And so if we can do our part in trying to dumb that down, or just really get rid of the terms even, and just say, hey, like, these are our stories. These are the people that actually are doing this. These are just real people. We're showing the real side of agriculture. We really want to do that. There's Yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit on the
Sure.
possibilities of stuff like this. And we're both very visionary people, and we can kind of imagine 10 years down the road, it's like, hey, there's a real opportunity here to genuinely not just run a business, but really help people and really help society understand a little more about their food. And so,
Sure. Yep.
we could have very easily set up some fancy podcast studio and told you we're going to do this and that. It's like, we're going to be real. We're going to be honest. We're going to sit here in the middle of a machine shed
Yeah.
with a combine header right behind us, with combines and tractors in the background, because we know that doing it in a situation like this is just as important as setting up in a professional setting, because this is actually what's happening. Like, we are literally going to stand up from these chairs. I'm going to put all this away. Neil's going to hop in a combine.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. Why? Because that's how agriculture is. We're not going to have time all the time to set aside hours upon hours to do this stuff. Sometimes we just got to get it done.
That's right. It's just it's a get it done business, and um, Dad and I still work day to day, every day, and get just as greasy as dirty as anybody else here. And then I might hop on a call on a land deal, or Dad, So it's just one of them things. Uh, it's a get it done business, and to be very successful in it, I don't think you can ever get away from that part of it. To really be a successful farmer, you have to be willing to do the worst job on the farm every day.
Exactly. And that's just excellent life principles for anyone.
Yeah, I think it is.
Doesn't matter where you are at the top, you should still be willing to do the
Yep,
bottom job.
for sure. Set goals. Don't ever think you're too good for anything, and get up with grit and determination every day.
Yep. And be willing to scrub the toilet if
Yeah,
you have to.
yeah. Don't quit.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's it. Like, share, follow, do whatever the heck, whatever platform this is on, do the thing. So we'll be back in a week or two. And
Yeah,
yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
yeah. Thanks, Clayton.
Yeah.